Hey, Crow, welcome.
Great. Can you hear me now?
And now I can hear you, yes. Can
Yeah,
you hear me?
I can hear you.
Excellent.
Nice. So how you feeling?
Oh, all right. Just like I've got a cold or a mild flu, something like that.
Yeah.
Just if you're wondering what we talk about here, I'll just oh, it's backwards. But anyway, I got my first COVID vaccination today through the Sask Health Region on account of being a volunteer first responder.
Well, that's understandable, I guess. But I guess you know where I stand. And I suppose most people would probably guess. Oh,
I
but what
mostly
I
I mostly wanted to see what would happen. Got it.
yeah,
Sort of
that's kind
part
of
of the reasons.
been yeah, I could have that was kind of my thought too. I'd be like, yeah, just let's see what happens. But now, everybody that I know that has gotten it so far, all experienced the same thing, mild flu symptoms, and then it goes away. Sometimes they get laid up for a couple of days, and then
Mm-hmm.
they're back on top. So I haven't heard anything horrific, let's put it that way, except for on the internet, of course. But, as with everything on the internet, you take it with a grain of salt. You know the old saying, nothing what you hear, half of what you see.
Believe half of what you see and none of what you hear. None of
Yeah,
what
that's
you
pretty
hear,
much
half
the.
of what you see, something like that.
I guess that's why whenever I give an article from the internet, I'm always like, well, this is what they are saying.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, and I don't know. I only like to pass on information that I guess could possibly be true.
Okay.
And sometimes with a little digging, you'll find out whether it is or not. But yeah, but then there's other things like Biden is a clone or it's James Woods with the mask, and I'm just like, please. It's like, these people aren't that smart, and that just seems like an awful lot of effort.
Mm-hmm.
And then other people are like, yeah, but Biden looked different 4 years ago than he does now. Well, I just look at people and I was like, well, I wouldn't immediately jump on the clone bandwagon. I would
No, no, I mean, he's an old man and he was 4 years younger 4 years ago.
yeah, well, I'm like, you know what? A plane ticket to China, get
Mm,
some high-end plastic surgery. It's
sure.
off the books. Nobody knows. Media didn't post it. That to me seems more
Mm-hmm.
reasonable
Yeah.
than the theory of a clone or James Woods dressing up.
Yeah, I'd say the internet is teaching us discernment at a rapid pace.
Yeah, you kind of got to use reason and logic, and it's just like, yeah, that's probably a little bit outside of that. But
Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh, let's do our intro. We should do that. We didn't. Hi, folks. I'm Peter,
and I'm Crow,
and this is P and K Q&A for April the 24th. Welcome.
and welcome. So I think we'll do the Lord's Prayer right off,
Okay.
and then we can move on from there. For the Father of the people is with the creation by the Father. With the knowledge in the heaven is with the holy name of the Father. For the knowledge of the truth is for the people of the Father. For the kingdom of the Father is in the knowledge of the truth. For the knowledge of the Spirit is for the unity with the Father. For the freedom of the actions is with the knowledge by the truth. For the protection of the earth is for the life of the people. For the knowledge of the Father is with the protection for the people. For the truth of the people is with the path unto the heaven. For the teaching of the people is with the truth of the people. For the knowledge of the day is for the product, working, and learning skills of the people. For the wrongs, sins against the knowledge is with the actions of the people. For the sins, temptations of the flesh of the people is for the wrongs against our neighbor, for the knowledge of the people in the forgiveness of those wrong decisions. For the people of the debts are of the responsibility in the truth. For the people of the awareness are for the forgiving with the truth, for the knowledge of the people. Leader is with the teaching with the truth. For the evil of the people is with the lack of the knowledge of the truth. For the knowledge of the truth is for the freedom of the people against the evil of the darkness and the lack of knowledge. For the people are with this agreement.
Amen.
I'm going to jump right back up to one spot. For the knowledge of the day is for the production, working, and learning skills of the people. Now that's interesting. Basically, what I see there is we are meant to progress, and we are meant to learn, and we are meant to use our intelligence and gain skills. We are meant, this one little passage tells us, without a doubt, we are meant to evolve, not to stagnate ourselves. Like what happened back in the Dark Ages when people who had knowledge and wanted to share it were persecuted, that would be a sin and a great evil against this one passage that quite explicitly tells us that we are to be constantly evolving and learning and bettering ourselves. So what I say about the meaning of life, that one little passage stands. God is the Father of personality, who has gifted personality upon mankind. Mankind's sole purpose in life is to create a character that complements that personality. That is what is meant by we are co-creators with God. So many people fuck up that passage. They have no idea what it means. Oh, we're going to create universe. No. The co-creation we are doing with God is creating a character to complement his gifted personality. The only gift you can give God is to show up at his doorstep saying, hey, I fused with your thought adjuster, my thought adjuster, and I did everything to be like you. And I've got a little, I've created a character that the Father can admire. Oh, you think the Father does not want to admire his children's accomplishments? Don't be foolish. Of course he does. Doesn't want to, I mean, God didn't ask us to be like him. He asked us to be perfect like him. Huge difference in a statement. Wants us to strive to be perfect like him, but to do it in our own and unique way. So that when we come before the Father, we can present him with a gift that is wholly unique in the universe. That's what a father wants. Father doesn't want you to take go to Walmart and take a gift off the shelf. Yeah, it's nice, probably appreciated, but you know, a father is more proud if you made something with your own hands and use skill and knowledge to do it, because you know it shows that you know you paid attention growing up. So yeah, one little statement and all of that. So, what are you thinking we could talk about this week?
Well, let's see. I got had a statement about how I kind of grew as a being, but if you've got any more current events you want to mention, we could do that first.
Oh, Chris Sky is in Regina.
This Sky. Okay.
Chris Sky.
Hmm.
Oh, yeah. The Canadian government really, really, really doesn't like this guy because he's educating people. And yeah, and he's an anti-masker and anti-lockdown, basically anti-tyranny. And holy crap, the convoy that escorted him from Alberta through Saskatchewan, it was pretty long. It was pretty long. I admit, me and a buddy, we did drive towards Moose Jaw, hoping to run into the convoy because I just wanted to see it. I mean, it looked long on camera, but I wanted to see it in person. And plus, you know, the more the merrier, right? And well, shit. Chris Sky decided to stop pretty much in every little town on his way to Regina, because what ended up happening is that as he was going through on Highway 1 and hitting all these little towns, people were out by the highway waving him in. And plus social media, it's like, oh, you're coming through, you're going right by our town, come on in, have a sandwich, come. So he stopped in all these little places, you know, sometimes for a few minutes, sometimes for you know, half hour or so. And yeah, he just finally made it to Regina. Oh, and he left Medicine Hat at 9 o'clock this morning.
Okay.
Medicine Hat is a 4-hour drive. And so that means that he should have, well, he did say that he was going to be at Victoria Park at 2 o'clock. Well, he just got to Regina about 15 minutes ago.
Okay.
So yeah, there were a lot of people that wanted to express their gratitude for everything that he has done to help people through this pandemic, help them know what their rights are, fight government overreach in court, and you know, just basically just helping. So he's got a lot of support across Canada, a lot. And he was never. He said he's never been to Saskatchewan before. This is the first time he's been to Saskatchewan.
Okay.
So we're like one of those flyover states. Everybody flies over Saskatchewan to get to Alberta. And you look down, it's like, oh, there's Saskatchewan. So yeah, I think Manitoba and Saskatchewan is one of those two provinces that when people travel across Canada, they just floor it and get through it as fast as they can. And it takes about I think it takes almost 12 hours to cross Manitoba and Saskatchewan.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, we drove from here to Winnipeg once, and it's
7 hours.
takes a while. Yeah, so it's all the way, you know, we're sort of in the middle of Saskatchewan, and it's all the way across Saskatchewan, and that's almost all the way across Manitoba too.
No, yeah, Winnipeg is 7.5 hours from here. I've had to drive it a couple of times for work. And Calgary is about 8.5 hours.
Yeah.
Usually you can get to Calgary in 8 hours, but then, you know, a half hour is chewed up you're quite a ways from the city, and the traffic starts to get real shitty real fast. So same thing in Edmonton. So my job's kind of traveled me to those places. And it's actually pretty fun sometimes driving across the prairies, because what people don't know is, like, everything is so wide open, so it doesn't look like anything is segregated or separate from anything. And you'll drive through all kinds of weather on a long trip across the prairies. I mean, I've driven through, in the fall, we've driven through snow, we've driven through rain, and then we drove through driving rain, like the kind of shit that we had to slow down to like 30K because we couldn't see nothing. And then we drove into hail, and then finally, when we finally got close to Calgary, boom, sunshine. Me and my buddy, we just looked at each other. It's like, man, that was like major Twilight Zone shit. I was like, I think we've seen every season in that 8-hour drive. So that can happen.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was going to talk about how I said in a previous show how I was kind of a bigger liberal and socialist in university, and I sort of grew up after that, and the sort of the details of how that happened were it sort of really began when I came to realize that because before I thought, well, you know, the government needs to take care of this and this so such and such goes correctly or doesn't happen. But when I finally realized that the government is composed of people, and people are fallible, or people are, you know, no better than I am, I thought, well, you know, I can probably do quite a lot to help myself, and the government doesn't have to be, it just has to do what it's supposed to do, and not really anything more than that.
Yeah, that's the way America was supposed to be. And for a while it was like that. And that to me is like, I mean, the sole purpose of government, in my opinion, is that its job is to administrate the country. And whatever rules and regulations have to be put in place in order to do that effectively, I am all for it. But government's job should never be, or is never meant to be, for regulating the people or governing the people. I mean, yeah, it's like driving on the road. So, like, you know, you're going along, you're following the proper driving rules, and they're there to make sure that nobody gets hurt. You stay on, you know, you stay to the right of the yellow and to the left of the white. In the Maritimes, we say keep your meat between the mustard and the mayonnaise, and you know, follow the rules, and you're good. That is how government is supposed to administrate a country. It's like, okay, you want a business? These are the rules for running a business. Follow those rules. Fine. The rules are set up to be fair so that you can have a competitor down the street. It's like there's like anti-competitor laws where a competitor is not allowed to go and obstruct another business. These are regulations that are necessary. Because if we didn't have that regulation, then the person who is willing to go the furthest is the one that's going to win. You know, some of us are not willing to burn down our neighbor's house with the children still inside. But then somebody else might be willing to go that distance. So obviously, if that person is willing to go that distance, they're the one that's going to win. So we have laws to keep that shit from happening. That's what government is supposed to do. Just keep everything so that everybody has a fair playing field. And then if, you know, and, you know, all of our tax dollars that are collected, well, they go into public services only, not into private corporations like it is now. I mean, people down in the States, I mean, every Canadian knows this, and most of us are disgusted by it, but the Americans would probably be absolutely shocked to know just exactly how much money our government gives to private industries to stay afloat. It's like, if you can't compete, then why are you still in business? And if the government is set up the system in such a way that it makes it impossible for you to compete with, say, a country like China, then there's something wrong with the government, not something wrong with your company. You could have a perfectly good business model, have everything all perfect, everything's great, but it's hard to compete with China's labor costs when China doesn't have to pay any tariffs at the border. It's like shit comes in from China like it was made in Canada. People don't know that. You wonder why shit from China is so cheap? It's because there's no tariffs on it. Put tariffs on it, it would be at the exact same price as a Canadian made product. Except the Canadian made product is probably, well, most likely going to be better than the Chinese made product. You know, because if you're making something for your fellow countrymen, you might take the extra effort to make sure that it's safe or that it's going to work, and so that you're not out and about somewheres, and somebody come up to you and be like, hey, you made a shitty product and it hurt my kid, and you get a punch in the nose. And that could probably happen in Canada. There's only like 36 million people. It's not like down in the States where it's 300 and some odd million people. So yeah, I mean, but you get something manufactured in China, what the fuck does China care? It's just, pump it out and get rid of it and get it out the door. And I think last week I already informed everybody about the drywall thing. I hope everybody Googled that and looked for it just to see if I'm wrong, see if I'm full of shit. Because it's there. The drywall thing would be the easiest one to find. I think the other two would be the lid crayon would be the second easiest thing to find, but the fluorine one, that's going to be the most difficult one to find because that one is heavily censored. But they couldn't do too much with the drywall one because it was millions of homes and millions and millions of dollars. And it affected the average person. I think mostly in Alberta. Although I do know that there was some of it in the Maritimes, which actually opened up an opportunity for a business to start producing their own drywall. And a company jumped on that and they started producing that. And they made it at a competitive price. And then, of course, when people had to start tearing out the Chinese drywall, well, they were already up and running and they were producing wallboard and they filled the need in the market at that particular point in time. And then after that, as far as I know, they're still operating. So yeah, sometimes an opportunity can come out of complete disaster. What was the other conspiracy theory that I just laughed at? Oh, the other one, there's still, man, this one was laughable. Some popular conspiracy theories on the internet. I'm not going to give the names because they don't deserve it. But there's three of these guys, and what they did is they shared the same video amongst themselves, but with separate commentary, each backing up the other's claim. And what it was a video of Trump and Melania landing in Air Force One, getting into the presidential vehicle and driving away. And they claim that was only 2 days ago. And I'm like, okay, I'll go along with this madness for a moment. but it was a simple search on the internet to find out that this video was not from 2 days ago. It was from several years ago. And it wasn't that hard. It was just a matter of matching up Melania's dress. That's all it was. They lightened up they darkened up the video quite a bit for the conspiracy one. So the original was quite a bit lighter. But what gave it away is that it was the exact same pattern on the dress. The color was slightly different because of what somebody played with the video, but the design was exactly the same. And it's like, and the same walk around the car, it was all the same. And it was just like, oh, for freak's sakes. It's like, these people, it's like they just want to confuse everything because they're trying to hide the truth of everything. And so this is just one aspect of just, making people that seek the truth. See, what they do is they'll release a video like that, okay? That's easily provable false. And then they'll get everybody to share it. And then mainstream media will pick up on it, and they'll be like, see, this is what these crazy conspiracy people believe. And they'll do a simple background search, just like any decent researcher, and they'd find the same thing I found, that it's the same dress. And they would point that out, and then it would be like, see, these conspiracy people. And it's just, it's disingenuous. And this is the other thing where we have to practice our discernment skills too, is that don't worship people and don't take people at face value. Because a lot of these three shills, conspiracy shills, they have a lot of followers, especially one. He's got like 1 million followers. And I'm just like, really? People really sucking up this tripe? And there's not one thing this guy says that can be substantiated on any level. And he's got 1 million views. It's disgusting is what it is. People need to wake up and start paying attention and see people for what they really are. And truthfully, when I watched this guy, this guy's name came onto my radar through a buddy of mine who was telling me all about, oh, this guy says this and this guy says that. And, Trump is still president and all of this stuff. And I'm just like, oh, okay, I'll take a look at this guy. Why not, right? I try to keep an open mind. I got 5 minutes into this guy's video, and I could just feel the sliminess. And I was just like, oh my God, why couldn't my buddy feel that? This guy is so full of shit. It's like, I couldn't, I gave it was an hour-long video, and I gave it 15 minutes on double speed. And that's all I could give it. It was just one piece of bullshit after another, and I'm just like, oh dear God. It's like, no, that's not what's going on at all.
How many of his 1 million followers do you think are bots that he or others program?
Yes,
that's the thing. I've been watching these videos. Smarter Every Day has a series about that sort of thing, and I didn't realize, I guess, what the thing about bots. I guess it's like, okay, they're doing this and this, and I think we need to program a bot that hunts down other bots or something like that.
Yeah, this is why it's really super important, people. You have a block button. Fucking use it. people need to block bot accounts. That's how you fight them, because people will pay bot farms to bolster up their numbers on their social media. If every time you come across a bot account, block it. Just block it. And I'll tell you, the best way to test for a bot. Okay, so the first sign of a bot is the conversation is going to be disjointed. The responses aren't going to make any sense. So you might tweet something and then the bot tweets something back, and it's just like, we weren't even fucking talking about that. It's like, how did you make that fucking leap? Well, what you do there is, I don't know, sometimes I'll give it maybe another tweet. I'll be like, where the fuck did that come from? And then I'll put in the bottom, are you a bot? ... question mark. And if the response that comes back to me is completely unrelated from what I just tweeted and does not address the bot question, I hit the block button. Don't even hesitate, because a human is going to respond to, are you a bot, with, no, I am not. The bot is just going to respond with just another random reply. And this is the, South Park had a name for it. Travers Razor or something like that. And it's hilarious. It seriously is. Basically, it's the theory that if you can get like this person triggered, and then the idea is to get their followers triggered, and then start creating this expanding battle with this bot, and the bot just keeps everything, keeps pissing everybody off. This is what trolls this is apparently what trolls do. But I don't know, I just do it just to fucking piss people off and make them think. At least I'm not putting dicks in people's mouths. Photoshopping. You got to watch the South Park episode to get that joke. Let's put it this way. It starts at Skank Hunt. I forget which season. So, but yeah, block them. Just block them.
Yep.
And discernment. Have discernment for people.
Yep.
I mean, just if they feel like a shill, just block them. Don't entertain them, just block them. And that way they're just gone. Because in the case of these three conspiracies fuckers that I was talking about, they have bolstered up their view in such a way that dumb shit just keeps coming up on my suggested feed. And I'm just like, I don't want anything to do with these. I don't even want them on my feed. Because as far as I'm concerned, not only are they evil and practicing sin, but I believe that they're also practicing inequity. Actively going against the things of God, working against it. And to me, it's just like, you know what? I can handle sin. I can understand sin. I can even understand evil. Both have their appeals. No problem. I understand. Sometimes you just want to do you, right? But inequity, I don't understand it, because that is consciously working against the light, against truth, consciously. You've made a conscious decision to bury truth and to hide it from people. That's inequity, people. That's what inequity is. The exercise of hiding truth. Consciously hiding truth. A personal decision to do so. And when you've done, when once you have made that decision, you're almost unsalvageable as a soul. I I mean, there's still mercy, but you're almost unsalvageable. So why would I even want my eyes to even, be laid upon them and have my mind give them a monicum of thought? I would rather not give them any thought. It's bad enough that we're talking about them, but hey, I'm trying to educate people. Okay. So that's the difference. But yeah, what are these? Oh, these are the same people. See, now I just hear what they say through my buddy now, which is pretty cool because it means I don't have to entertain them, but he can tell me what's going on. Mm-hmm. And through other truther channels, especially this Jordan Sather. Man, he really enjoys pointing out their fallacies. Like, he really enjoys it. I mean, he's not, I mean, people accuse him of attacking. He's like, I wouldn't talk about these people if they weren't full of shit. Simple as that. And so, better things to talk about, but when people want to be full of shit, then you got to call them out on it. Anyways, that's something that Jordan Sather enjoys doing. So, he can have at it. But
the thing with the bots, I guess you reminded me of you described how to tell if an account is a bot account when it does something that's completely disjointed to what you're trying to talk about. It's either that or one of those atheists I've run into on Facebook who is so upset at the fact that theists exist. They draw no distinction between, say, a theistic Buddhist and a conservative Southern Baptist. I've had two of those guys block. I mean, maybe they were sophisticated bots. I don't know, but I think at least one of them is a real person, and they're just so, for whatever reason. And I don't want to judge them or put them down because people have reasons for the point of view and the whatever that they are, the positions they hold and so on, because everybody has a different background. I want to make that clear. I'm not actually, ripping on these people or anything, but they may have very good reasons for how they present themselves. But yeah, it's this.
And some of those reasons can be horrific.
Yes.
Yeah. And probably those reasons are the type of reasons that you can only talk to a psychiatrist about. Mm-hmm. So, you got to totally understand where people are coming from. I mean, this is where libtards, social justice warriors, people of that ilk, this is where they lose understanding. They come from maybe upper middle income America, and they think that the rest of America is like that. And with no thought that, hey, the farmer in Ohio has completely different experiences from what somebody in downtown Las Vegas is going to have, or Los Angeles. And the thing is that, understanding these 2 points of view, you got to understand, the reason why this person holds this view is because of their experience that they have. That person's holding this view because of the experience that they've had. And it all comes down to experience. Maybe the belief that they hold is not true, but you cannot teach truth. All you can do is show it. And that's it. And words do not convey truth very well. It's much easier to show it. This is why prophets have visions. Because, you show the truth. And then it's up to the prophet to try to interpret that vision as best as he can. And I understand why prophets get it wrong. This again goes through more understanding. I understand completely. I understand because I see the visions myself. And I know exactly what they're looking at. And it's like, yeah, it's a jumble of confusion, and you're doing your best to try to sort it out. And, the clip can play over and over again until you can get it right. And then finally, you come to the best conclusion that you can. The real danger, and this was the trap that I fell into late last year, was putting timelines on things. Yeah. I don't think I want to do that anymore. Because time is a weird thing. Time isn't exactly linear, although our experience of time is linear. That is not necessarily the nature of time. Time is actually splintered, and it's off in all different directions, and it doesn't become linear until we experience it. Once we experience it, then it becomes linear. Because we've experienced now, because we live in the present, then we experience the future, it becomes our past. So once we experience it, it's solidified in our memory. It doesn't change. And then once all of reality begins to line up, which is what's happening now. We talked about the timelines all converging. That's basically reality lining up with the truth. Say, if reality does not line up with the truth properly, and say that the evil wins, and now we're not lined with truth anymore, the timeline that the Earth will spin out on, the Earth will quickly die, and will quickly, very quickly, cease to exist. It become a planet like Mars, and in a billion years, this whole solar system's dust and being recycled back into the universe. And the reason why that happens is because it is our Creator's mercy is what holds up reality. You see, there's another word people misunderstand. They think mercy is about, forgiving or, holding back a fist. That's not mercy. The true nature of mercy is our Creator giving us a thought. That's what mercy really is our Creator acknowledging our existence. As long as the Creator acknowledges our existence and His mercy never ends, the reason why I use the word mercy is because it's more than just acknowledgement. It's more, acknowledgement, love, trust, understanding. It's a whole bunch of stuff in a tiny little word. But the one very important thing is the acknowledgement. Now, when a being decides to practice an evil and sin and deny reality, then the Creator has then the Creator will begin to deny your existence, or to deny that you exist. And once that happens, you don't exist anymore. It's as simple as that. You can't, and also by dealing in sin and inequity, it becomes impossible to use the universal circuits. You can't use them because in order to use them, you have to acknowledge the one that created them. Say Lucifer. This is why Lucifer never denied Michael to be his father, because Lucifer wasn't stupid. Lucifer knew that if he denied Michael, he would cease to exist. He knew that. but he denied God. So when he denied God openly and he didn't pop out of existence, that to Lucifer was proof that God did not exist. Or the eternal Father did not exist. But he acknowledged Michael as his father. Maybe understanding, who knows? But I don't know. This lowly human understands what happened. Because Michael is the creator of this universe and Lucifer is in this universe, acknowledging his father creator, he will remain in existence. This universe is set apart, is just part of a larger universe. So when he denied the existence of the Father, that was fine, because the Father is holding up the reality of the universe. Michael is holding up the reality of his universe. So Lucifer denying the Father didn't affect the greater reality of the universe. That's why he didn't cease to exist when he denied the Father. And Michael didn't want to deny his children's existence. Mercy. And that's what he gave them. That's what the mercy was, is that Michael did not deny their existence. He upheld their existence. But it doesn't mean that they were going to remain healthy. I mean, a father can pay the rent for his son, but the father is not necessarily in control of what the son does. So the son, yeah, okay, the son's got a roof over his head, could be doing drugs every night, doing whatever he can for the extra cash. But hey, the rent's paid for. But sooner or later, the gas is going to get cut off, the hydro's going to get cut off, and the phone's going to get cut off because daddy ain't paying for any of that shit. That's extras. And so that's what happened to the ones that rebelled. They had their heat cut off, they had their lights cut off, and they had their telephone cut off. But they were still allowed to exist. But then they found clever ways to stay alive, mostly involving drinking our blood, or doing some kind of alchemeric process to sustain themselves. They had the smart ass idea of seizing the tree of life. That was actually one of their big plans. Was if they figured that they would have the tree of life, and with that they would be able to sustain themselves indefinitely. And they wouldn't have had to build the pyramid complexes all around the world. But Van, he took control of the tree of life. And he snuck in, uprooted that fucker, and he got out of there with the help of some humans. And big help from his human partner. The one that shared the life plasma with. And so they got the tree of life and they bailed out of there. And then they escaped to Tibet, into the Himalayas. And once they got to the Himalayas, they were relatively safe. And so, because they could hide out anywhere in the Himalayas and nobody see them. Because the way angels travel, this is actually pretty cool. The way angels travel is that it's kind of like that movie Jumper. If anybody's ever seen that, that's how they move. They can, except it's a little bit different. They can only jump to places where they are wanted.
Hmm.
So if there's a group doing Satan worship, it's like a fucking magnet. So when Van and his gang hid out in the Himalayas, there was nobody there that wanted these evil ones. So that means that they had to search basically manually. They like the search function in an Adobe in a PDF document. They didn't have that feature, so they had to go through every line, one by one by one, and they spent a long time searching for Van and never found them at all. And they hid out for 150 years. They hid out for a long time. And then finally they came out. They came out after the global catastrophe. Dan knew it was coming. He's seen it coming centuries before. He knew what was happening because he knew what the result was, what they were doing. It didn't take a genius to figure it out. This is why evil is stupid. They're just greedy. They wanted new bodies. They figured out a way to make them using the energy of the earth and the humans before Adam and Eve showed up, and they were doing that. And that caused a chain reaction within the earth, which caused a chain reaction everywhere else in the solar system. Turned planets on its sides because everything is connected. And Tiamat suffered the worst. And Mars is the remnant of it. Well, the moon of Tiamat. And they almost destroyed the earth, tipped us on our axis. Whatever the disaster was, evidence shows that it was from east to west, because all the megalithic structures, ancient ones, all the destruction is in one direction. If that's not evidence of a global catastrophe, I don't know what is. Take a look at a megalithic structure. The ones that, when you see the north-south walls, they're still fairly intact. But the east and west walls of a megalithic structure are shifted by a lot. And, enough that you can reach your hand in between on a lot of them. And so whatever happened, it was an east to west. I mean, some people say the brakes were put on really fast. Maybe the earth fucking shifted because of a huge catastrophe. We don't know. And but it was definitely or how it all comes together. Needless to say, the ground moved a lot in a very, very short period of time. And there's also evidence of huge electrical high voltage striking the rocks, lightning, very high voltage. And what I'd like to see, I want to show people. I'd like to show people an aerial map of just our area. And is it Google? Come on, give me Google Maps. Well, when you zoom in on the area, especially around here, I love looking at the map from above. What it looks like, they call it water erosion, but it looks an awful lot like electricity running through the ground.
Hmm.
And it's just like, because what clued me in was that you ever see some of that art made by high voltage electricity?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, there's a person at the market that was selling them, and it's like lightning caught in glass. And when you look at the satellite photos around Saskatchewan, it's looks exactly like that. And they want to call it water erosion. And I'm just like, no, that doesn't make any sense. I can find a good one.
Let's see. Oh, here's um got one here. Let me see if we can get that. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that's the art. Yeah,
Yeah.
stuff like that. And it's what you see all over Saskatchewan
Mm-hmm.
on the ground, not just Saskatchewan, other places around the world. And it just looks like
Mm.
lightning had traveled across the ground and just dug a trench. Because we know that, it seems like Saskatchewan was the bottom of an ocean at one time. There's evidence of it all over the place here. So if that was the case, the Saskatchewan should just be a flat pan all the way across. But that's not the reality here. Yeah, it's mostly flat. But then you have these sections, especially along the south and closer to Alberta, where it just has all this like a lightning strike on the ground, painted on the ground. And it all goes out in these little tributaries. And, people are like, oh, no, that's water erosion. And I'm like, then why do some of them start small at the top and big at the bottom? If that's water coming into a channel all at once, it should be bigger at the top and smaller at the bottom.
Hmm.
That's what water erosion does. And if it's supposed to dissipate into that valley, you follow the valleys, it's like, okay, where's the exit? And we still have water erosion, but then what you start to see is that the elevation doesn't make sense either. At the place where it's supposed to be the deepest water, it's at the highest elevation. And the lowest elevation has the small tributaries. It's like, well, how does that fucking make sense? Oh, the ground raised in that area. You mean for like 1 square kilometer? I thought continents raised and fell, not 1 square kilometer of land. So I don't know. I'm not a geologist. I'm sure that there's some complex explanation that a geologist could explain, but if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense. I like things to be explained and make sense. That's all. This is why my professors hated me. It's because I would just keep right on going asking questions. And it's like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Make it make sense, please. And sometimes you get the odd one that is just like, you're just going to have to take my word for it. And I'm just like, yeah, that ain't happening anytime soon. I don't like it when people ask me to trust them when they haven't given me any reason for that. I don't know, maybe it's just me. So, yeah, I've got a really crappy map up, so it's not working out. That's why I'm not really showing it. It's just, it's not Google, let's put it that way. I don't use a Google browser.
Do I go
So
Google Earth or something? Does it work on
yeah,
your browser?
I haven't
No.
yeah,
Okay.
I haven't downloaded it to this computer.
Okay.
Downloaded it on my phone, but
Hmm.
that's it. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
nothing
I
I've
don't think
done.
this computer could handle it.
Hmm.
But anyways, when people tell you stuff, you use your reason and use your logic. I guess that's been the theme so far in this episode.
Yes.
Reasoning and logic. Just, you know, don't accept what people tell you. Want it to make sense. If it doesn't make sense to you and the person can't explain it in such a way that it does, then I don't know. I start, it's like 50-50. It might be bullshit.
At least further research is called for on your part if something doesn't. So yeah, no, what I like to say is listen to others, but form your own conclusions. And what works for others may not work for you.
That's that's good for practical life skills. That's really good. But when you're trying to get knowledge and you
Mm.
want truth, truth has to make sense.
Yes.
It always does. I mean, or else how can it be the truth? I mean, if it doesn't make sense, then it can't be the truth. And everything can make sense. And if it doesn't make sense, you're right. Dig a little, do some research, find out why it doesn't. I mean, if something doesn't make sense, at least find out why it doesn't make sense. And, and you never know what you're going to stumble across. I mean, I stumbled across morphogenic fields because Darwin's theory of evolution didn't make any fucking sense. I mean, it did. I mean, some of it did, but but then there was a lot of it that didn't. There was too many open-ended questions, and Darwin did that on purpose. He expected people to do more research after him. He was a scientist. I mean, he was a truth seeker himself, and he didn't have all the answers. He even said so, and he wanted scientists in the future to build on his work. He gave a platform for start thinking. It's like, okay, maybe things do change over time. And how is this change affected? What is the mechanism behind this change? These were not questions that were asked by people. They just accepted his theory. But then, one day a scientist came along named Rupert Sheldrake, 150 years later, and he wanted to understand the mechanism. Like, he couldn't prove evolution either way. So he's like, okay, I want to know if evolution is real, then what is the mechanism that drives that evolution? So, and if evolution isn't real, then there should not be any mechanism. So he started doing the math. And a mechanism for how, and he built a model for how evolution should work, a mathematical model of how evolution should work. And this became his theory, the basis for his theory of morphogenic fields. And then he went about, proving or disproving his mathematical equation. And in the process of doing all of that work, what he found is instead of his equation falling apart, reality was showing him that his equation was correct with some adjustments. And he made those adjustments because of what he discovered in the practical science realm. And we're talking like, a lot of research into the past and, following the genealogy of lab rats, of all things, and looking at different experiments among social groups in the primate studies and animal studies. And he started putting the threads together. and he had his mathematical theory to fall back on. And when reality start lining up with your mathematical theory, then, you know, if your math is correct and reality is telling you that it's correct, then you're probably correct. And this is why I'm just like, morphogenic fields, people. Study them, understand them, and you'll understand how the universe works. And, you know, it changed Sheldrake's life, that's for sure. I mean, this guy, like, he doesn't teach science anymore. He teaches, like, spirituality, because that is what, I mean, when he expanded on the math, that's what the math showed him. That everything goes back to a creator force. And that he didn't want to put a name to that creator force, but he just says it goes back to a source. The math will show you that it goes back. And there's like different spots, waypoints along the way. The equation is long and complex, but he did manage to get it down to a small one. But even the small one is complicated. And I think the small one, I think it has 26 variables or something like that. And it's like, oh, okay. Not something that I could probably work out. I mean, to put that out on a chalkboard, you're probably going to spread across a couple of them. So, but yeah, that's and and people aren't. We are meant to evolve our characters. This is why the Urantia book says once the thought adjusters show up, there is no more evolution for mankind. Done. Because the only thing left for evolving mankind is spiritual evolution. Yeah. Because once the seat of the thought adjuster is established, the only thing left is spiritual evolution. And we have not evolved very well spiritually. And that has been the whole plan, and it still is the plan, to stagnate. Oh, I know what I wanted to say. We're going if we can circle back to Trump. The reality of the situation when it comes to Trump is Trump is like Obi-Wan Kenobi at the end of Star Wars. When Obi-Wan said, "If you strike me down, Darth Vader, I will become more powerful than you could ever imagine." Well, Darth Vader struck down Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan finished the training with Luke. They struck down Trump, and guess what, people? This is not conspiracy theory. This is fucking reality. And mainstream media even said it out loud, and they know it. Trump is now America's kingmaker. Any candidate that Trump endorses is guaranteed their ticket, without exception. How messed up is that going to be? You know what Trump's putting these candidates through? Think The Apprentice. You know how many people are looking for Trump's endorsement right now? They're showing up. They're lined up around the corner to Mar-a-Lago. They come down. They talk to him. Trump's response is the same. It's beautiful. It's the same every time. He gives them an assignment, just like he did on The Apprentice. You go home. You do that assignment. Call me when you're finished. You want to know what one of the assignments is? I don't know what all of them are, but I know what one of them is. He makes the candidate hand write, not type, handwritten, the Constitution from start to finish. They must get a copy and handwrite it, copy it,
Okay.
and then send it back to him or bring it to him, wherever the case may be. What kind of effect is that going to have on the mind of a candidate? I don't know about you, but, well, actually, you probably, I do know. Same thing as me, same thing as anybody that on the planet. If we write it out word for word, we're going to remember it forever. It's never leaving our minds. It's there. It's locked in. And especially like a document like the Constitution, you're not writing that out in a few hours. You might take a day or two to do that. I mean, yeah, there is the short version, but Trump's getting them to do the long version. The whole thing. What is the whole thing? Like 13, 14 pages?
I don't know,
print?
actually. It depends what size the pages are and stuff, but it's 7 articles and 25 amendments. And I've actually got the encyclopedia up in my room with the United States Constitution. It's like 5, I don't know, I'd have to tell you exactly how many. It's 5 or 6 pages of an encyclopedia, the text of the thing.
Okay. So yeah, they get to write that out and send it back to them. Locked in memory. They'll never forget it as long as they live. And there's other things I imagine that he gets them to do just to make sure that they are going to go to Washington and push the America First agenda. So, yeah, any candidate is going to get that. And if people don't think that Trump's seen this coming, think again. What the hell has he been saying for the last 4 years? The elections are rigged. Our system is broken. Over and over and over again. If you think a man like that wasn't doing something behind the scenes, think again. Of course he was doing something. He was talking with his generals. He wanted to see where the generals stood, working with them every day. It's like, you know, and I imagine the conversations with the cheating of elections on his mind. I'm sure that there was more than one conversation that he would have with his generals asking, what would you do in a situation where the election was stolen by a foreign power? You don't think he asked his generals those questions? Of course he did. And the general would have to respond to that. And I am certain the army doesn't do, is, you know, the army is organized, and there is no doubt that there is already an operations manual for if the elections were subverted by a foreign power. You don't think the Army has an operations manual for that? They've got an operations manual for if a UFO lands on the front lawn of the White House. So yeah, they've got an operations manual for everything. And they, a good example actually is Roswell. The flying saucer crash in Roswell. I have no doubt it really happened. Because for this one reason and this one reason only, and this is documented evidence available to the public, confirmed by the military. When the Roswell incident happened, the military didn't have a game plan. And it got all mucked up. So much confusion. First there is a saucer, then there isn't a saucer. Then there's bodies, and then, you know, farmers were talking about it, and now farmers aren't allowed to talk about it. A lot of weird shit went on. And too much of it went out into the public. I think it was a year or two later, there was another incident. Again, this incident is documented. Another UFO crash land into a mountain, I think somewhere in the Arizona desert. And when it happened, the Army had that whole place locked down in like 12 hours. Boom, 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 boom. Any witnesses rounded up, spoken with, taken care of, you know, dismissed, go back home. You know, top secret, you know, military aircraft fell out of the sky, nothing to see here. And they had that shit locked down hard. I will guarantee you that the reason why they were prepared is because of what happened in Roswell. Mm-hmm. And that holds up to logic and reason. Because you have a bad experience once, you're going to think of ways to avoid that again. And you don't want to have that bad experience twice. So yeah, that's what I think that. So yeah, I think the Army has got a game plan, and I have no idea what it is. All I know is that they have to be careful because they're also watching what's going on in Myanmar. Mm-hmm. Myanmar the military is sort of running the government right now. They're just they're not allowed to pass any new laws. They're just basically being a placeholder. There's no laws being passed. There's no government. There's no work being done in the legislature or anything like that. Everything is just running. That's all it's doing. Social, you know, social programs are still going. Hospitals are still running. Government workers are still getting paid. The roads are still being capped. Everything is still operating under the Army's control, but they're not allowed to pass any laws. And they're just there to keep the civil peace. And that's what they've been doing. Now, I know there's newspaper articles that are out there saying that the Army is abusing people. And I want you to look at the article and see what's going on and look at how it doesn't make any sense. Because the articles that I see, Army attacks protesters. And it's like, and then they show me video where the protesters are marching in the street unharassed. And then in the next second, they're showing me pictures of this crazy shit going on in one little corner of the city. And it's like, okay, you've got the majority of the people protesting without being harassed. And then over in this corner, you've got shit disturbers. Well, maybe the Army is taking care of the shit disturbers so that they're not disturbing the peaceful protesters. So the news doesn't give you that angle. Just like what happened this week. You're going to fucking love this shit. 2 girls are fighting outside of a house. So we're talking suburban area. This is not ghetto, by the way. This is suburbia. 1 girl runs in the house. Now, the cops have already been called. They're on site. They just showed up to a domestic violent call. Okay? This cops just showed up. You've showed up on emergencies. You know that fucking, shit's fucking chaos. Well, the cops show up. Neighbors are outside. Fucking, these two girls are fighting. One girl was running inside as the cops got there. And then, like less than a minute later, she comes running out with a fucking knife. And she's going after this other girl. So the girl with the knife has black clothes on. The girl without the knife has pink clothes on. And the cop is hollering at the girl with the black clothes and the knife. He's like, drop the knife. She's not listening. She's making a beeline for fucking girl in pink suit. And so she gets to girl in pink suit, and the cops are telling her to drop this knife, and they've already like fucking hollered this shit like more than once. Okay? Girl with knife has her arm up like this, ready to stab girl in pink because she's got her trapped over the hood of a car. Cop sees what's going on, and he's like, holy shit, he had to make a call. So he shot girl in black clothes, dead. And she dropped the knife, finally. Pink girl in pink clothes, she's safe now. She's happy. Cop just fucking shot the girl that was about to stab her. This is where the fun really begins. Go to mainstream news. Racist cop shoots black girl. That's it. That's the headline. Racist cop shoots black girl. And they went on and on with this commentary. And it's fucking, they fucking on CNN, it was like, but she dropped the knife. She dropped the knife. I didn't watch it on CNN. Newsmax was kind enough to play the whole video in one panel and CNN's version in the other panel. And CNN says that the girl dropped the knife. But they take her arm just out of frame that is still holding the knife. Or no, they freeze frame it when she is coming in at the bottom of her swing, which is about the exact same moment that the officer's bullet hit her. And she dropped the knife. Now, looking at that from CNN's point of view, it looks like she dropped the knife and the officer shot. But then you watch like the whole video and you see that no, she dropped the knife because she was shot. There's a difference there. And it seems like some people are disconnected from reality and don't understand the difference. She dropped the knife not because the officer asked her. She dropped the knife because the officer had to finally put a fucking bullet in her, like you would any mad animal. And nobody even, and here's the kicker. I mean, even all the witnesses were like, no, the officer had to shoot her. She was going to kill the girl in the pink clothes, in the pink jumpsuit. And it's like, so even the people that witnessed it don't understand how CNN would have the gall to spin it like that. Racist cop shoots black 15-year-old girl. Well, that 15-year-old girl, she's a pretty big girl, by the way. She outweighed her victim by at least 100 pounds. At least. I would say more. I would guess more, but I want to be kind. So, and her victim was just this skinny little black girl. It's like, bitch was just pushing her around like a rag doll. It's, yeah. So maybe now society might wake up when they see this stupid shit. So, but yeah, so that was fun this week. And I thought there's another one this week. I can't think of it right now. Damn. There's a couple of fun things. Oh, we've got the Maricopa audit. And you gotta love this. Do people know that the Democrats have brought in 73 lawyers to stop the ballot audit? 73 lawyers. Are these people fucking insane or what? I mean, they're trying to stop the people from making sure that every ballot is legal, and somehow these fuckers are able to spin it as racist. It's like, are you people insane? That seems to be the go-to now for anything. And here's the fun part. So you got the media all against this whole counting, and the politicians. The reality on the ground is this. I think we're 3 days in with the counting, with the auditing of the Maricopa ballots. And I believe they have discovered 30% of the ballots have a fictitious address. 30%. And they went and checked all these. I imagine a lot of it was done on Google Earth and some of it done on the ground with people volunteering. Now, Steven Crowder already did this in a couple of different cities, Las Vegas. And he showed where people's addresses were empty lots. Some numbers didn't even exist. And, in some cases, the people that were doing the videoing on the ground got out and talked to neighbors in the neighboring houses. And the neighbors would be like, there's no house number like that here. And then my favorite is this guy who grew up in Las Vegas. He offered to help Steven Crowder with his investigation. And Buddy said, I will be able to strike. He says probably 99% of the addresses off your list. He said, without even leaving my house. He says, I know Las Vegas. I've lived here my whole life. Steven Crowder's like, okay, he gives them the list. Well, actually, I think he told him where to go get it. But, well, no, I gave it to him, but you can download it. It's public record, so it's nothing secret. So Buddy got the list. And he went through the list. Nope, 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 nope. And Stephen Adams was, how were you able to check them off so fast? He was like, because. And he said, he took them out. He went out there, did a video feed with Steven Crowder. And he was like, this is how I know that these are fake addresses. This is a boulevard. There are no houses here. It's like Arcola, essentially. Mm-hmm. There's no houses on Arcola. All the houses are on the streets behind Arcola. Arcola is a 4-lane highway that runs out the end of the city. And that's what this guy was saying. It's like, no, that's like a 4-lane road for people to get to the suburbs quickly without having to. And he said, there are no houses here. He said, just shrubs. And he videoed the whole thing and showed right up and down this place. It's just one big fence so that it dampens the noise of the cars on the throughway. And so, yeah, that accounted for a large percentage of the addresses that Steven Crowder found on that voter registration list. So, yeah, things like that need to be addressed. I mean, and people are mad that people are asking questions. It's like we've got people voting from addresses along a road that has no houses and is impossible to have any house. And you don't want people to ask questions or get a little upset? I mean, how upside down does the world have to get before people wake up? I mean, wow. Are people really that brainwashed? I don't know. I mean, does Michael know us well enough to get us out of this mess? I was saying to a friend earlier today, I was like, I don't know. I was like, unless all these evil people drop dead all at once, I don't know how we can clean up our planet. Because there's always somebody looking for an opportunity. And
yeah, I was thinking, what would it have to take to really fix it?
I mean, I think that, if we got the evil people off the planet, I think that we would have a shot. Mm-hmm. And understand that when I talk about sin, evil, and inequity, I'm talking, this is for the audience, I'm talking about what they actually are, their definition of the words. Not talking about, any individual or people. This is what people are at their core. And they are evil when they work against truth. Or no, evil. Well, yeah, in our definition, the universe has a slightly, actually, it's reversed in the universe definition. So evil in the Urantia book's definition is a misstep in judgment, but is correctable. Sin is defined as being the active, it's just actively ignoring truth. Actively ignoring it, choosing to ignore truth. Inequity is working to hide
ignorance,
truth.
Basically.
In a way, yeah. In a way, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I just because I'm trying to get them, because I'm actually trying to get them straight in my own head what the actual universal definitions of these things are. Yeah, so
ours is ours in our language is the opposite. Yeah, I would say that our definition of evil is the universe's sin. These are people that actively deny the truth. It's not only willful ignorance, it's people just actively denying the truth. And then, and so, I mean, these people, evil is just the people that will not accept reality. And it could be anybody. It could be anybody. Anybody up the street, anybody at the corner store. It's anybody. So if all the evil people, not just the ones in power positions, all the evil people, then we would have a shot at moving into light and life. But if these evil people insist on denying reality repeatedly, what do you do with that?
Yeah. I've been trying to figure out, I have I'll go back to my science fiction story. I have these quantum androids, which are like, I don't know, I guess the best analogy of them in the Urantia book, they'd be like the Finaliters or something, if something like that came to Earth, because their morality interlocked. They're incapable of doing anything. I mean, they're incapable of doing anything bad. They have the best interest in heart. They're also almost omnipotent. They're was it they said we are immortal, indestructible, and we will always have access to your children, or something like that. Is what they're capable of, basically, and
Now,
they're inherently good.
did these ideas come to
But
you
I keep listening
before?
to.
Sorry,
What?
did this idea come to you before you read the Urantia book? Like the idea
Yeah,
of the
I've had the
bots
idea
that
for
you just
years and years
described?
now. I've been tweaking it as I've been going through the Urantia book and listening to, discussing what Michael's about and how important free will is and things like that. And the version of them I would have be on this planet now would basically show people where to find the truth, and answer their questions, and they wouldn't do a lot for people exactly that people couldn't do for themselves. They'd be coaches, not servants, certainly, but more like our brothers and sisters, sort of thing like that. Like, let's say somebody lives in a house, he has some kind of valuable collection of, something that's important or valuable, in his basement, say, and his roof is leaking and it's damaging this collection. So they, this android would say, okay, you're pretty good at organizing, but you haven't done too much of that because it's getting leaked on and you're depressed about it. Why don't you go start kind of organizing and optimizing the way this collection is presented, and I will fix your roof because you're maybe the guy's old, he can't do it, or doesn't have the money to do it. So the android fixes the roof while the guy works on his collection, or works on repairing some of it, or he's able to do, and the android does something that he's maybe not able to do, so that it takes just a little of the pressure off. Let's see, that
I
case,
see.
something like that. And then, let's say some of our friends who are on the fence, or about, they don't know whether, they don't know what to believe exactly. So these androids answer some of the questions. They say, well, why don't you take a look at this person? He explains it quite well. That sort of thing. I'm continually tweaking the, how these, and I sent you kind of a part of my story where these beings show up and some of the things they do. And I've tweaked it slightly since then, but how do I say it? Basically, it's a set of big brothers and sisters for humanity, and they are capable of showing us things, and also being like the last line of defense against the negative things you were talking about. They're fully capable of, they could fight our military to a standstill if they had to.
Mm. I think as you're talking, I'm thinking to myself, I bet you that's what frustrated the shit out of Lucifer when it came to the Finilators.
Hmm.
Because he would be asking them about the Eternal Father, and they would be like giving him descripts that just wouldn't calculate with his reality at all. And it just would just confuse him even further, because the Urantia book tells us he made many inquiries into the Eternal Father. And so, since the Finalator's been to paradise and then came back, Lucifer would sit and talk with the Finalators, but he was never satisfied with any of their answers.
Right, it didn't compute to him.
No.
Like,
And
just like when you or I talk to an SJW or something. I mean, not exactly, because there's a certain intellectual thing going. It's basically when somebody is at a level where they have reached the limit of their understanding of a certain subject, and they're talking to somebody else who's a quantum leap ahead in that subject. It's not going to make any sense. I've been in that position where I was not capable of understanding what the person was talking about. Later I was. But
Yeah.
at the point that a lot of these people are, it's not their fault. And we have to remember that it's very frustrating, because these people who don't know any better, or they're at their development is at such a point where they're basically their level of operating system does not, it leaves them open for manipulation, or they do things for certain reasons that it's because of where they are. They could cause trouble for the rest of us. But I guess if we focus on the journey ahead, or upward and inward, or something, is why we obviously want to do everything that we can for ourselves, and to assist others that we can. But we mustn't be so downhearted that these people exist, I guess, because, would you say, potential, those of us who have spiritual potential can, I don't know, it'll be adjudicated fairly later on in the next world.
Well,
We do what we
here,
can do, and let the rest is up to God, I guess.
well, that's just it. When Jesus was in his travels, him and Ganed, a small Indian boy that he was tutoring at the time, when they were traveling, Jesus was in the habit of stopping and visiting with everybody, at least briefly. And they were also in the habit of handing out alms to the poor. So, so Ganed, would take a portion of the money that his father would give him, and he would donate it to the poor throughout the city, not just one organization. They gave it directly to the people. And as generally what Ganed witnessed on these outings, when him and Jesus would go and do these things, generally when they arrived in a new city, this would be one of the first things that they would do. They would go walk about the city with some coin in their purse to disperse among the poor. This was kind of a Jewish habit, and so that's what they did. And as they did this, Jesus was always in the habit of talking with people and listening and getting to know them. And there was this one occasion where Jesus didn't stop and visit, just handed the beggar the coin and kept on moving. And Ganed was like, Jesus was like, well, he called him Oshawa. He's like, Oshawa, why didn't you stop and talk with that guy? And Oshawa looked at him. He says, I will stop and visit with those who have the potential of the Father within them. He said, that man is damaged. He does not have potential. But he is a fellow human. And, his heart goes out to him. But Jesus knew that man had no spiritual potential, not much different than a dog or a cat or any animal. But yet, we do treat animals with kindness and compassion, don't we? So regardless of whether they have spiritual potential, we always treat people with compassion and the respect that they have, the respect of being a fellow human, at least. Just unfortunately, they don't have the spiritual potential for whatever reason. Might be damage to the pineal gland, more than likely damage to the pineal gland. Nothing to do with mental prowess or anything like that. Has everything to do with the pineal gland. That's probably the point that I'm trying to get at, is that don't think that retarded people or people that are slow or people that aren't that intelligent are not, do not have spiritual potential, they very well could have spiritual potential, because it's not about their mental prowess. It's about whether or not there is a seat available for the thought adjuster. That's what it comes down to. If there is no seat available for the thought adjuster, that person does not have spiritual potential. And these people exist. And some of them are clever, some of them are smart. You say, you might meet a person, it's like, gave you the chills, they're soulless. You might very well be correct. Their pineal gland might be damaged beyond repair. There's no chance that a thought adjuster is there to guide him. So basically, he's a primate that knows how to read, write, and count, and do math, organize a ledger, run a computer, build a computer system, run a government, be a lawyer, be a doctor. They could be anybody. Doesn't mean that, just because you don't have just because a person does not have spiritual potential does not mean they're not intelligent. In fact, sometimes the most intelligent people are and we call them sociopaths. They just no conscience because they have no seat for the thought adjuster.
And that's what we're seeing being exposed over, say, the last 4 years.
Yeah, they're exposing themselves. They hide very well because they know they're not the majority. They know they're not. Yeah, but they want us to be like them, incapable of providing a seat for the thought adjuster. They basically want really, really smart apes. That's what they're looking for. So they don't want to kill us. They just want to unseat the thought adjuster. That's what they really want. And then they will feel, because they can't stop the thought adjusters. Thought adjusters keep coming because they travel the Father's gravity waves. Nobody else can travel those circuits except thought adjusters and Finilators. They're the only two that can transverse. This is why thought adjusters, when they fuse, this is the other thing. Not only do thought adjusters want to fuse with us to go back to source, to the Father, and successfully endure the Father, because Father will devour anything that he does not recognize as himself. This is a defense mechanism. Yes, the Father does have defense mechanisms. This is the big one. Anything that the Father does not recognize as himself will be devoured immediately and shit to the underside of paradise, then recycle back into the universe. So when you come out of Finaliter, then it is understood that you are God, an aspect of the eternal Father. This is why you're going to have your own personality and your own character. But God still has to recognize you as him. This is why you have to fuse together. Do the will of the Father. Because once you do the will of the Father, then you become one mind with the Father. And then the Father will recognize you as being one of his. Simple. And so, so the Finilators, once they have gone through the process to become a Finaliter, they can ride the gravity waves without being affected by the pull of different spatial bodies in time and space. So there's no tearing effect. So Finilators can travel from one end of existence to the other using gravity. And that travels faster than all other modes of transportation in the universe. So you could make it to the other side of God's creation probably within, I don't know, within 5 billion years at least. That's how big Father's creation is. And I'm only guessing because that's how long it takes for Paradise to do one circuit, or for Hovana to do one circuit around Paradise.
Right.
So I'm going to imagine that gravity is part of that equation somewheres too.
Okay.
I need to put a smoke counter down in the corner.
Hold up a 1, 2, 3. Yeah.
Were there questions this week?
Yeah. No.
No questions this week?
I don't see. No. Don't. Let's see. Friend Mike is on. Mike, do you have any questions? I'm not sure if he's right there or if he's streaming or what. He often streams our show while he's working or something. But yeah, no. Hi, Mike. Hi, everybody who's watching. And who everybody has watched. Thank you. And the number, I think I told you this, but these androids I was talking about, what basically is like the core of the finality, that's kind of what I would equate them to. They're like gods, basically, that can manifest into physical form and educate a planet. Or I guess like an atom or something, but there's fewer of those. Anyway, I have the number 2 billion comes to mind.
Here's an interesting
in my book, he creates 1 billion of them initially because he wanted to get the truth about like wildlife populations and stuff. Oh, Mike says he's still listening. Cool.
Yeah.
And real, what's actually happening at human-animal interactions, with ranchers and predators and things like that. Like, how big a deal is it? How do we manage that in a harmonious way and that sort of thing? And then the second part of what I sent you, I think, was after the aliens, the one character had gone out and met somebody he was married to in a past life, and he became the same species, and they both came back to the planet, and they were touring around, and somebody didn't like that, and they shot up a crowd of people. So he had security staff who took care of that, but they discussed it a bit and thought, well, maybe we should have another 1 billion of these for the human population, basically 1/7 or 1/8, say 7 or 8 billion people on the planet. So there's 1 to 7 ratio of these androids, big brothers and sisters, whatever it is they are. So they end up doing that, and then that's the point where I am trying to figure out exactly what that interaction would be. Obviously, it's going to vary depending on who they're talking to and things like that. But yeah.
No, I mean, I find it interesting that you dreamed them up, and what you dreamed up describes the Finaliter so well, or even the thought adjuster so well, that it's like, because it's not the thought adjuster's job to do the shit that you are totally capable of doing. The thought adjuster's doing the shit that you're not capable of doing. And yeah, you should be grateful for that. I mean, the thought adjuster, you're not capable alone as a being to make that bridge to the Father. The thought adjuster is helping you create that bridge. The thought adjuster meets us halfway at 50%. We have to make the journey to the other 50% so that we can fuse with the thought adjuster. And then we make the journey together to Paradise. And then by the time we get to Paradise, we are one with the thought adjuster. There's no different. There's no difference between us. It's just you've just absorbed into each other. It's just you've shared so many memories, so many experiences together that when you think, you're both thinking the exact same thing at the exact same time, that there's no time lag anymore. Jesus talked a little bit about thought adjuster time lag. That's interesting. So once we synchronize with the thought adjuster and there is no more time lag, then we are fused with the thought adjuster. And that's when we then are able to stand before the Father. But there's even a process before you stand before the Father. Before you can even like go dwell with the Father. You're like spending time just on paradise itself. Father is the center of paradise. But you're like spending time on the outskirts of paradise first. You slowly make the journey inward to paradise. It's not you land on its shores and it's like you're there. It takes time. Because first of all, it's going to take time for you to get over yourself. Like the Urantia book talks about spontaneous worshiping. I mean, what the hell is that? They have Seraphin officers, that police officers, that their only job is to keep the Havana pilgrims from over worshiping. It's like, it's like, whoa, they've got to stop them sometimes. Because what ends up happening, you say, this is where God, in his wisdom, so wise. Life feeds on life. So God, in his wisdom, did not want to devour his creation. He wanted his creation to grow. So he devised a plan. This is going to be some deep shit. People are just going to their minds are going to fucking explode. He devised a plan so as the pilgrims from time and space would bring him the nourishment that he needs to sustain the universe. But he did not want to devour his children of time and space. So in order to avoid devouring them, he had to make the sacrifice of distributing himself throughout the universe in the form of thought adjusters. But they need to come back. They're basically bringing back a basket full of bread. And when they come back, he did not want to destroy that experience that was created by that child of time and space. So that by the time, the plan that he devised was that by the time the child from time and space arrived at Paradise Shores, they will be so like God that when they stand before God, they will not be devoured, and they would be able to step inside God and dwell with God and not be destroyed. And then come back out and be God. And then go out and gain more experience as God, and then bring that experience back to God. God digests experience. That is what sustains the eternal Father, is our experience out in his creation. Because thought is energy. We have the equation that shows us that it works both ways. Einstein showed it to us. Energy and matter are the same thing, and thoughts are energy. Thoughts can become matter in the presence of God, which is bread. Yeah, I bet you
Yeah.
everybody's shitting their pants now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, it actually makes a sort of sense now that, from what I've thought about for. And then Mike does he did just post a question here. Let me scroll it so I can read it. It's kind of a long one, and the top of it grays out. So okay, here. So he says, I have a friend who believes the end of time is coming any day now. Gets annoying as every few months they send the info on going to Jesus now and insists we're going to die in a few days. Well, this has been going on for a decade. End of world preaching has been going on for hundreds of years. How best to explain to them or handle the situation with this subject? Life, as you talked about, is about experience and doing something with your life, not hide and fear end times coming. This friend is a nice person, so like to help as needs to live, not in fear anymore, just mostly feel sorry for him. I think, Mike, you've talked about a lot of, I think we all have at least one friend like that. They're a great person and even, like us in a lot of ways, but they got this something going on that we just can't understand why they're fearful and they're this and that. So I'm going to say what I say in my Think Positive for Life. First, obviously, you put your oxygen mask on, take care of yourself, but I don't have to tell you that. Just let's see, what do I do with? I've actually, even you were talking about asking questions to certain people, like some of these atheists on Facebook and stuff like that. I've actually I do sometimes, but I've actually sort of backed off on that in where where even that seems to hurt them, because I know I was doing that sort of. Now that I analyze it, my ego was involved in that. I wanted to, like, oh, I'm doing this thing that's quote good. I'm hurting, or I mean, it's okay to hurt them if I do it for a good cause. I mean, well, okay, maybe not. But then it became something I didn't want to do anymore. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to try to go back into my support the positive of those people mode, whatever. So it's really a judgment call. Every situation's different, and it's hard to decide what to do in certain situations. But I guess knowing what you consider to be the truth and continually revising that in your mind is maybe the best thing you can do, because until the person decides to change themselves, there's not a lot you can do, because I've dealt with a lot of different people, and I've tried to act like who I would say are in a child parent relationship, kind of, with, like, I know something and I should be able to tell them, but they're the one guy's older than I am, so he's not going to listen to me about certain things, and it's what do I want to say, it's their mind is locked into that for whatever reason, and you present something different and they feel and I understand that, because I feel the same way when what I consider people who are less knowledgeable try to force me to do something and get upset with me for being positive or being a decent person or something. Yeah, Crow, you got anything?
Well, some people just, problem is that people take possession of the things that they know, and then they become very possessive of that knowledge, and you can't convince them otherwise. And the only real thing that you can do with them, well, at least like what I like to do with them, and maybe I'm an asshole, but I just play. I look for opportunities to ask questions, and I allow the questions to pick away at their logic, is what I do. I don't try to tell them what I know, or at least what I think I know. Probably be the better thing to say. And so because it's pointless. So what's the point? You know, it's I take the same stance as the Son of Man. If somebody is not receptive of the message, then why bother? So I take a different approach. You've heard me. People have heard me say, I've 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 learned to talk directly to the thought adjuster. If there is a thought adjuster that is present, I can talk to that thought adjuster and I can give that thought adjuster some ammunition to use. Like, throw a little fact in there, something that's going to make you think. Let you chit chat, ask a question, but have that question turn a wheel. Once I turn a wheel, that's all I need to do. Just like a stubborn bolt on a block, and on an engine block. Once you get that one little squeak, you got a chance. So long as you don't feel it breaking under the pressure. And yeah, you just ask questions that are going to turn a wheel. And if so one or two things are going to happen. Either the gears will start rolling or she's going to fly off her axles. And you know what? I don't take responsibility when it flies off the axles. That's their problem. Let them deal with it. At least there's movement in their mind is the way I look at it. But do things in such a way that you don't spark an emotional reaction. Emotional reaction is like your worst enemy in a debate. Because once you start down the emotional path, the debate is over with. You can't debate with an emotional person because you're just going to end up with them just repeating themselves. It ends up being a 8-year-old's argument. I said so. No, I said so. Duck season, rabbit season. No, duck season. I couldn't help myself.
Is not, is so, is not,
Yeah.
is so, is basically what they boil down to.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah. I avoid that stuff. I had me and a guy were having a discussion, and me and a buddy, and his wife was there, and so we're talking, and she jumps into the argument, and she's like, "No, the communion, that is the sacrifice of God. That's the blood of God that we drink." And I'm like, okay. I was like, you know what? I'm not going into this discussion with you. I said, I refuse to get into this because you have a belief and I am not about to dispel your belief. But we're going to keep talking. And so me and her husband did keep talking. And I would not debate her on communion. But finally, when the emotion had subsided, she did ask me, it's like, okay. She says, do you do a communion? And I was like, yes, I do have a communion. And she was like, okay, what is your communion? Fast running water from a brook, blessed by my own hand. The water of life to fill my spirit. The bread of life to give substance to my physical body so that I can do the works on earth of our eternal Father in heaven. Stopped her dead in her tracks. She didn't know what to think of that. I said, doesn't it string? I said, and then I added at the end of it, I was like, just so you know, any ritual that involves blood is satanic. I can show you the exact same ritual for the communion in satanic literature. They call it the cake of life, and it requires blood. So there you go. Anything that involves blood is satanic. is a satanic philosophy. Anything that is service to self is a Luciferian philosophy. Those are the differences. And they overlap. Of course they do. Especially after, a few thousand years of running around on this planet. Of course shit's going to overlap. But, yeah. So once you learn to recognize things for what they are, you just learn to just sit back and allow people just to think let the wheels turn in people's heads. They calm down. And once they let go emotionally, they'll be reasonable and open to an interpretation that they might not have heard before.
It just takes time and finesse. It's continually figuring out. No two situations like that are different. Sometimes not even two different conversations with the same person can be different, and that's I guess I wouldn't have it any other way.
My suggestion is read material that delights your soul. That's what you do. If you read material that delights your soul and you can feel the truth in your heart, then the arguments will come on their own. As long as you are dealing in truth at all times, the arguments will come on their own. And you'll know when to, and you'll learn to know when to stop. There has been plenty of times I've opened my mouth, ready to say something, and all that comes out is, and then I'm like, nope. No. The person needs to collect their emotions for a while. And so I let them talk. You got to let them talk. And then listen and hear what they're trying to say to you. And, just sometimes people will talk themselves out of shit. Let them do it.
Okay.
And be ready to point, be ready to ask a question. Be ready to point things out. I mean, don't be afraid to point out fallacies either. Well, fallacies. When you point out fallacies, I always like doing it in the form of a question. Well, you said this, but why doesn't it line up with this? And then let them be creative about filling the gap. And
okay.
And we actually went over one of the spots here in the prayer. For the knowledge of the Spirit is for the unity with the Father.
Okay.
I think we went pretty good into that one.
One more. We'll have to. I don't know if I have to do these with like a 5-minute intermission in the middle, or because we're picking up watchers in our third hour here. I'm like, I'm getting a little tired. I want to go to bed soon, but anyway, no.
Yeah.
So I think we'll just. Hi, Mandy. Yeah, Mike's got one more question, and I think we can address this briefly, and then I think we'll wind it down. We'll wind it down for the day. It's basically about the type of different life forms in the galaxy, or the galaxy universe, whatever it is. I mean, obviously, we know we have humans here as the top race on this planet. What variations are possible? And Mike, of course, is asking, is there a planet out there somewhere that basically looks like we stepped into Zootopia? Is a specific question, but yeah, the variety of life in the universe, and what could we find out there?
Well, the Urantia book tells us that Michael of Nebadon created a human universe. And then it tells us that these humans are divided into 3 classes. Sub-breathers. The sub-breathers is one of them.
There's non-breathers, breathers, and something else.
Non-breathers and
Air breathers and
I
water breathers, maybe? Am I forgetting? I'd have to go back and look, but there's...
no, there's heavy breathers, there's sub-breathers, and there's breathless.
Yeah, non-breathing. Okay, yeah.
You're non-breathing.
Yeah, so
pretty sure
apparently
those
it's
are
possible to have life on a planet where there's no air or not. Yeah, they they can go about their business similar to us, but they just don't breathe. It's apparently
yeah,
what you
and
can
so
have.
I imagine that when the Urantia book says that it's a human universe, I think it's just talking about the outline.
Mm-hmm.
2 arms, 2 legs, and a head.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are variations in between. I think very much like a Star Trek universe
Mm-hmm.
is what I imagine is probably what our universe looks like. There will be, but it's going to be a mixed bag because I think like only 10% of the planets in Michael's universe are father fusible planets, and the rest are spirit fused. And I'm not all to, it's like father fused means leaving the universe and making the journey to paradise. Spirit fused means remaining in the universe of Nebadon. And so those are the types of beings that we will find out there. What they're going to look like, I think Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine that there's probably going to be others. As for Zootopia, I think that every planet that is capable in our galaxy is going to be very much like Earth with a variety of life forms. Mm-hmm. And they are there for us. The only thing that these planets are missing is the angel of wisdom and the angel of worship. And we bring them with us when we go out into our galaxy. And there'll be planets that that will have spirit fused beings on them. We will run into them around our galaxy. And this is why it's important that we have the spirit of truth be fully integrated into our DNA, into our psyche, because we will have to recognize the spiritual creatures that live out among the stars. Because if we don't, then we will have a galaxy like Star Wars, where everything is in competition with itself, but we already know the universe is in cooperation. Competition doesn't work. The Father set it up that, yeah, life feeds on life, but it's a cycle. It's not just take. It's a cycle. And the cycle is set up in a beautiful way. And, you know, it's perfect. So so if his creation is perfect, then everything else out there is perfect in its way that we have yet to understand yet. I mean, we're not going to be a real civilized spiritual society is not flying across the universe using petrol fuel, petroleum fuel. or nuclear fuel. They're using vibrations, and they're using the energy provided by the universe, the mercy.
Yeah.
They're using the mercy, the acknowledgement of Michael as the creator to propel themselves around the universe.
Okay, that's interesting because in my science fiction story, the two races involved have something called transwarp drives, and they run on something called penta-unobtainium. I came up with this stuff, but near the end, and I haven't actually quite written this, they build something called a ship that runs through something called a quantum slipstream drive, and it has a quantum power supply. It pulls energy directly from the universe to fly, so its range is basically indefinite.
Mm.
So I think, and probably we wouldn't use a ship at the time we got up to that. We could, but we could travel, as discrete beings along the energy channels of the universe at some time, probably.
I think the best description would probably be Andromeda.
Okay.
But imagine a interface, a crystal interface, where you can transfer your vibration into the whole ship through crystals.
Okay.
And that would be how you would navigate the universe. Now there are beings like that are like millions of years ahead of us, and they've already mastered this. I mean, they move in and out of our reality like nothing. I mean, they can slip out on their side of space, out of reality, and they can slip back into reality in our space. I mean, we would think that they are magical beings, but they're beings much like us, except they've had a couple of million years head start, and they weren't fucked over by a rebellion. So they know some things, and they have accepted creation. They have accepted truth. So by doing so, they have the Creator's mercy. Without question. And so they can pretty much do, they can do a lot because they're not restricted by their lack of knowledge. And this is what the whole universe is going to someday be. So, would just be, beings would just be like all over the place all the time. And with only one goal, and that is to serve to serve creation. And there is no limit. I mean, the universe does not need population control because there's plenty of souls that are leaving a universe, plenty. And they're making the journey to paradise. And when Finaliters, when it's time, when there's enough of them, will co-create with the Father in the outer space dimension. And it's going to be wild because now you've got beings that were forged in time and space, and they're God. And they are a long, 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 long ways from paradise in the outer space regions. So there can be way more experiments, especially into sin and evil, because people are still going to have free choice. But I think that things will probably be allowed to run amok a little bit more, and the laws of physics are going to be a hell of a lot more flexible. And so, this will be another expression of the Creator. And I don't know, it might be a whacked place to go visit. And because, I mean, look at what we come up with for our movies. Imagine, you're the programmer. You become a programmer of the universe. What could you create? Create some whack shit. Especially if you start thinking about your time here on Earth back in the beginning. So yeah, anything could probably happen out there because there are layers. Like, because if sin were to ever make it to paradise, reality would cease to exist in that instant. Sin or evil were to make it to paradise, reality would cease to exist in that instant. So this is why it's never allowed to even come near. It's got to go through Havana. And there's no getting through Havana. There's a billion worlds there for a reason. And you're going to transverse, if not all of them, most of them, before you finally land on the shores of paradise. And that doesn't even include all the Father's universes that you traveled backwards through with your the thought adjuster, retracing his steps from paradise, making the journey backwards, and all the way back to the beginning. And so it's a long, long, long journey. It's it might take you 1,000,000 or 1,000,000,000 years. Who the hell knows? Might take a few billion. You'll get there eventually. It's not the destination. It's going to be the journey. And, once you get there, then, and there's many, many paths to the Father. There's not just one path. I mean, the way to get on the path is narrow. And you've got to find your way onto that trunk, that tree trunk. And just like a tree, once you've established yourself on that tree trunk, you can take any path you want to the top of the tree. Any path you want. You're going to be on the same damn tree. So you're on the same damn path. You decide to go way the hell out over here and come back. Or your journey took you way out there and then you came back. There's no timetable. And, then you'll finally get there. And it'll be fun. You'll figure it out.
All right. Well, I think we
And
can
it
end
never
on that
ends.
note. It's the journey.
Mm-hmm.
The journey is
It's not the destination, people. It's the journey. Have a
yes,
little
indeed.
fun. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I am Crow.
And I am Peter. And this has been P&K Q&A. Peace out.
Peace out.